Okay, you ready for me to start?
Yes, sir. We're live.
Okay, it's 6:35 on uh, Tuesday, June 4th, my daughter's birthday. And so we are live with our credentials meeting, permanent credentials meeting. So, Marco, can you walk us through what our agenda is tonight?
Yeah. I'm gonna excuse me, share my screen. I'm sorry. I think essentially what I'm gonna walk you all through is sort of just the state convention processes for Tuesday, or sorry, for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Because credentials committee is kind of at the crux of facilitating the convention. So it's helpful to understand the bits and pieces. I have not made this public yet. I'm about to finish building it out, but I have uh, this is the convention reports sheet. So, like, when you look in your program, I think it's maybe prominent, maybe in one or two places. But this is the main business sheet that we'll utilize for the convention once it's posted, here, I think late tonight. Definitely wanted to get this out a little bit earlier, but, we are where we are. Um, One thing that I guess is important to know is that we had all of our permanent committees get elected back in April. So the four permanent committees were y'all, credentials, rules, resolutions, platform, and the two other committees that exist, and really it's three other committees, but essentially it's the two nominations committees, and they're not considered permanent committees. They didn't get elected in advance. They're going to do all of their business at convention. But the permanent committees and their temporaries, the mirror image committee that was temporary have done work, and y'all are the only permanent committee that is still going to be doing work from today through Saturday. Platform rules and resolutions has completely done their work. So here in the next after I get done with y'all, and I think I have a meeting with the Biden campaign to go over national delegates later. I'll post this on the website. I'll email this out to to delegates to give notice that we have a consent calendar. We have a platform that's recommended by the committee. Same for rules. Same for resolutions. Now, what role does credentials play in that? Is verifications of petitions. There are three petition forms, so I'm going to go to the first one. This one also can be a catch-all for there's some limited other reasons why there might be petitions. I'm not necessarily going to get into that, but oops, that's not what I wanted to click. All right, so I guess here in the is the folder that has all of the petitions and the forms. But if you click here directly, all right. So if someone did not utilize their county congressional district convention back in March, they have the ability, and by submitting something for platform rules or resolution, um, uh, and they want to create something completely new, they have the ability to do that, but it does take 30% of all delegates checked in at the time that it gets turned in. So, I think right now our delegate count is about 4,700. It could rise, it could fall depending on, the amount of check-ins, but that's not the amount of people that actually checked in. So we can actually add people while we're there. So say, we have a flake rate of 25%. So, that's about 3,000 something, right? So whatever 30% of that is, they would need that many signatures to get that motion directly onto the floor, whether that's a new resolution, a new rule, or a new thing to add to the platform. Now, if they get 50% of signatures or more, that means it's already a majority, and so it passes without any work. The floor doesn't even have to debate it. So this one is kind of like what you would consider the high bar petition. And I'll put something here in notes, kind of like saying, that 30%, 50%, and, when they have to turn it in. There's basically a 30-hour window from noon Thursday through 6 p.m. on Friday to get that amount of signatures. So essentially, if you really want to add a new rule or resolution and you didn't utilize, your convention process at your local level, it's kind of a high bar to meet. So that's one of the duties of the credentials committee, is to do petition verifications. So in other words, Friday at 6 p.m., that might be the job of quite a few of you if there's someone that that gathered that amount of petitions. Might be helpful also to show you the schedule, which has had some updating. All right, so let's pay attention to Friday in particular, or what? I'll go over the stuff that concerns you on Thursday. So Thursday, check in to get your delegate badge, to get your credential as a delegate. And of course, you guys won't be dealing with this, but also guest passes and press and volunteer passes, all that stuff, VIP passes. You guys don't deal with those, but those are another type of badge. But to get those, you have to go to the Abraham Chavez Theater's lobby. We're not using the theater, we're just using the lobby area. And it's outside of the convention center, but it's right next to it. I think something might be helpful is to look at a map. So you kind of want to look at, it's basically two large facilities. It's the convention center over here, and it's the Abraham Chavez Theater, of which we're only using the interior part of the theater, or the lobby, I guess. For there's actually 2 rooms, but we'll be utilizing the check-in area. Check-in will have we're not checking in by congressional district. There's not enough room to have 38 booths. And also because we used to have 31 and we just moved to 38. So check-in will be like I think there's 7 different booths, and we just broke it down like by about 400 to 500 names each. So it's like A to B and C to F and stuff like that. So we'll need. Oh, April, I'm going to go to mute you. So we'll need people to staff these. But I think I'm jumping over some stuff that I wanted to go over first. So Thursday, there's basically a 6-hour period of check-in. I think I'll call on Chair Hatch to address this in a little bit. We're going to send out a sort of a shift sign-up form, probably later on tonight, if not tomorrow morning, for people to sign up for amounts of shifts of either 3 or 4 hours each. And the idea is to essentially staff check-in. But we also need people to verify petitions and do some other duties. Let me go ahead and skip to Friday. So Friday check-ins essentially all day. It's a 12-hour, 30-minute period from 7 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. And of course, we need people to arrive early. So we'll send out the shift signups for that. And we're ending at 7:30 because, I want to say keynote on Friday probably starts, 8-ish. So I think we want to wrap up, unless you're doing some other miscellaneous convention duty. Like, let's say we had a bunch of petitions come in that take a really long time to verify. We might need some members to stay back and verify. But essentially, we want to stop doing credentials check-in at that time. And also on Friday throughout the day, we'll have a lot of peaks of check-in towards the earlier part of Friday. So as time goes on, we'll need fewer and fewer, and that'll be relevant when you guys see the sign-up sheet. So other than that, we do have a committee meeting that was just posted at 4:30. So if you're a permanent credentials committee member, I know there's people that either here that are on temporary and are not on the committee, and you're welcome to continue to help out. And obviously, if you have other duties, You don't necessarily have to help out. And there's also some other people like that are going to serve as assistants or assistant parliamentarians, et cetera, et cetera. But for members of the Credentials Committee, we'll be dealing with permanent role and maybe some challenges if they're in there, although we might save them for the 7 o'clock meeting. So should be fairly short. We'll just meet in the Abraham Chavez lobby. And you know, get the work done. Essentially what it is super easy. We look at the current role, which by that time will be approved as temporary role by the SDC on Thursday, the day before. So essentially what you guys are doing is just blessing that this is the permanent role. That's the basic. If there's anything done during the meeting, that's the one thing that needs to be done during the 4:30 meeting. I think quorum, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure we counted what 40% is, but we need 14 people there. So obviously, if you're doing something somewhere else or you have another duty or whatnot, you know, as long as we have 14, we're golden. So you're just approving this sheet. The 7 meeting, I think, will be to deal with just in case any challenges could come in. There haven't been any challenges to a delegate yet. There has been some people concerned about certain delegates, but nothing amounting to someone's broken the rules. Essentially, they're not a Democrat because they've done XYZ, and it's like, you know, clear. It's mostly been about, you know, the actions of someone, yeah, stuff that essentially is not an appropriate credentials challenge, because you literally have to not be a Democrat to not be a state delegate. So you know, challenges should be few and far between. The other thing, and you kind of maybe have seen this, we've changed the way that we do additions to the state convention. Essentially, we've given the power for y'all to add people at will. So like, let's say, you know, someone from Dallas walks up and say, I'm not on the delegate list and I want to be a state delegate, and they're a legitimate Democrat, you know, we'd have to check. We can add them as a state delegate right then and there temporarily. And then the committee needs to approve that. So the people that have the powers to add temporarily is the chair or their designee, which is myself. So I've added a whole lot of people as temporary ads. I mean, I could show you right now just to give you a count. Uh, 482 people have been added temporarily, but they're in effect now. So y'all have to bless that. And this is like, you know, an error with their sheet at the county convention, or just, you know, someone brand new. So challenges usually happen to be, I went to my county convention and they didn't seat me. So because the county chair or the convention chair or whoever doesn't like me and I want to be a state delegate, that's the majority of challenges. So by doing this process where we can easily add people to as a state delegate, and they're in effect right away, and then, you know, the committee needs to make them permanent at some point, that kind of cuts the problem with challenges. So really at this point, it's someone's not a Democrat. I know that one of the things that you'll be doing during check-in is asking for presidential preference. And someone has 2 options. It's Biden or no preference. Just because that's who won our primary. So there's only one selection, but they do have the ability to have no preference. And of course, we haven't selected our nominee yet. So someone doesn't have to be someone could be uncommitted / no preference for president, vice president. But if someone's not supporting a nominee, so say a Democrat running for Congress, so the word support is different from the word uncommitted and no preference. So if someone does not support one of our nominees, and so that's, we've already had our primary and our primary runoff. So that's all the Democrats essentially that'll be on the November general, sans, Biden Harris. If they don't support one of those people, that's cause for a credentials challenge. And under the rules, that person cannot be a party officer if they don't support one of our nominees. And remember, the word is support. So in other words, the support has a definition under the rules. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of challenges, but we will have to deal with them at one of our meetings if there is a challenge. But like I said, again, the vast majority of challenges are just to get seated because they didn't get seated earlier. And, they're fighting because they want this slot or whatever, or the, convention chair or the delegation manipulated it to where they're not able to sit with their delegate or be a delegate. And so that's not a problem anymore. Hopefully there won't be a whole lot of challenges. All right. So the other thing we'll be doing is verification of petitions, because petition type 1 that we were going over earlier, to propose a new rule or resolution, the deadline to turn that in is 6 p.m. On Friday. So this is the big petition, and so it will require probably a lot of hands. Now, petition verification may need to be happening at different meetings, at further meetings down the line. And let me show you when the next 2 meetings are. Okay. Saturday. And again, our meetings will not be in the convention hall, but will be in the Abraham Chavez lobby, the check-in area. Our first meeting will be 30 minutes after the 30-minute warning of the nominations at large report, as well as 30 minutes after the 30-minute warning of the nominations D and C report. And that's important because of petition type 3, which is right here. Strike and replace of lists. So the 2 meetings are sort of triggered by the 2 nominations committees. The 2 nomination committees don't produce a consent calendar. They produce a report, or sorry, a list. So in other words, there'll be 12 names that come from DNC nominations, and then there'll be like almost 300 names that come from nominations at large. So that 30-minute warning is the 30-minute period that delegates get the ability to amend the list via a petition to strike and replace. The petition bar is pretty low. It's going to be 1% of all delegates checked in. So, I estimate that's probably 25 to 35, or sorry, 25 to 45 signatures. So decently low bar if you're organized, know what's going on in the committee, to gather those, and then those have to be turned in, within the 30 minutes. And then that's where y'all come in. You guys meet, we start verifying the petitions. That's not a high mark, to verify, 25, 45 signatures. And also, once we get past a certain point of verified, if they meet the bar, you don't necessarily need to verify the rest of them. So those should be quick petition verifications, probably even done by 1 or 2 people. But that's what will happen at these 2 meetings. And the idea is there's individuals from the committee that are doing the petition verification, but y'all as a body have to approve of that work, of that petition verification. So individuals do the petition verification, but then the committee has to approve of that as a whole. And so that's why you have these 2 meetings, as well as the one before at 7:30, because the deadline is at 6 to turn in that other type. And then petition type 2 is, again, a low bar. It's 1%. This one also has a 6 p.m. deadline on Friday. So, very easy to verify. And essentially, if there is a platform like subsection or a rules, something on the consent calendar for rules or resolutions that someone wants to pull for discussion, you can by 6 p.m. On Friday, so again, a 30-hour window, you can turn in a petition to pull that from consent. And at that point, it will be discussed on Saturday during the appropriate, platform rules or resolutions report. It also might be a good idea for them to, when they have a successfully turned in type 2 to pull from consent form, to also, if they have any pre-designated amendments to that section, it would be helpful for discussion, because pulling from consent, you're in discussion, but at that point you're kind of, well, what are we doing here? Like you can ask questions like point of informations or something, but you're not actually doing anything. So it behoove the filer to also file depending on the circumstance, one or more amendments via this motion form. Generally, all main and subsidiary motions will be in writing. So the only thing someone can go directly to the mic for, which is different, is going to be like points of order, points of information. So essentially, if it's not a main motion, not a subsidiary motion, and you can look at the types of motions on your own. It has to be in writing. And the idea is you want that stuff in writing because you want to get it exactly, clear. That way, the staff, the parliamentarian, the presiding officer, the whole convention knows exactly what you're changing. So alongside petitions for this type 2 pull from consent, it might be a good idea for people to, they don't have to, but to turn in one of those. So let's see here. Other than petition checking, helping with check-in. So people are going to come in, you're going to give them their delegate badge. There's going to be a couple of things that, you're going to be scripted to say that you need to say. For instance, is your presidential preference Biden or no preference? If anyone says Kennedy, also need to know that, because that is not a Democrat. So that would be a credentials challenge. That person should not be at the convention. So if you guys get any Kennedys, please flag me, because that's a problem. Also, people are going to get assigned a delegate number, which I think I already pulled it down, but I zoom in here is a little bit easier to see. So, on your badge, you'll have a delegate ID. This is in alphabetical order. When you're checking in people, I'm going to set up some, because, we'll have, I think, 7 tables for check-in. So let me just, do an example for A to B. You're going to not work directly. The people who are seated at A to B will not work directly on the list. You're going to want to look at a view. So, for example, so I have temporary filter view. I'm just going to change this to I guess I have to save the view. So A through B. Sorry, there were a lot of people with last names A and B, so that's why it's A and B. And then essentially need to figure out the formula. Well, no, I guess I could easily say, I don't know. I need to figure out the formula, but this will only show A to B. And so the idea is, you're easily just scrolling through this list. All right, this person is checked in. They get a little timestamp over here. And also you can update their presidential preference. You ask presidential preference, they say Biden, they say no preference. Those are their only two options. You know, if they say Williamson or something like that, that's still no preference. You know, if they say someone that filed in the Democratic primary, you know, there's only two options: no preference and Biden. And the only difference in experience for this delegate is that when they go to their CD caucus, so the CD caucuses are Friday, and there's 3 different groupings. So I guess it's a 90-minute grouping. Hopefully, you know, work is done within, you know, 75 minutes, hopefully. But there's actually 2 caucuses in that caucus. First, there's the CD caucus. So that's essentially not dealing with the national, with the, I wouldn't say the national, not dealing with the national convention. Not dealing with the presidential process. So that's SDC member, that's well, electors are not pledged to a candidate, but that's neither here nor there. Essentially, you're doing 2 types of votes. So in the presidential preference caucus that goes on, there will be your paper ballot that you'll vote on. One side will be for the CD caucus. The other side is for presidential preference. So that's, you know, voting for national delegate and also for presidential preference recommendation committee. So if someone marks no preference, they can't vote for anyone who's running for Biden national delegate or Biden presidential preference committee. They have to be a Biden delegate in order to participate in that. If they do accidentally vote on the ballot, you know, that it won't count. That part of their ballot won't count. So that's the importance of marking no preference. So you have to check them in, ensure that they're marked with a preference. If for some reason y'all leave it blank, it's going to be assumed that it's no preference. Check-in and getting credentials is the final time someone can update their presidential preference. So once they get their credentials, they can't go and change it back. Now, if you went to county convention or, you know, throughout this process, you're able to switch, but our rules are clear. And also, you know, our delegate selection plan is clear that the final time is check-in at the state convention. Let me go ahead and finish one thing out, Angela, but before I get to you. All right. This should be very lightly used. But you have a checkout. Checkout is if you have a delegate who is checked in, but will not, but wants to leave the convention and not return at all. Delegates, you know, that wish to do so, they can check out, but that means you're not coming back. So you're not going to recheck in at any point. That adjusts sort of like where our quorum is, because quorum's based on the amount of people who are checked in. We have changed our quorum rules since the last convention. But so people can check out, you know, if someone's just here Friday and leaving early Saturday morning, might be a good idea to check out Friday or Saturday morning. If they don't, we don't know. And, you know, that number still stays up there. But in case someone comes back to check in, they can also check out. And so the way that you would annotate that is checking that box, and they get a timestamp. I will have the ability, and, you know, I might you know, deputize, you know, a handful of other people to add new state delegates. But you know, I think just regular, just at the check-in table, if you know, someone's not coming up on the list as a delegate, we'll have to direct them to you know, another specific table or something for me to add them temporarily, and then the y'all would, during a meeting, make them permanent if appropriate. All right, I think this is a good stopping point. Let me go ahead and stop screen share, and I can reshare if we're talking about a certain item. But let's go first with Angela.
I was just wondering, this looks to be on a laptop, do we need to bring our own laptops or are they going to be provided or what?
Yeah, I have a ton of laptops, but they are horrendous. I think all the ones that we have, they're just really aged really poorly. It would behoove you if y'all have a working laptop, it'd be amazing if every credential committee member could bring their own laptop. Wi-Fi will be a limited amount of logins. So yeah, if that's the case, I'm gonna ask you to not share it at all. Jonathan just asked iPad. I'd be afraid of using an iPad just because of, if you're needing to do something technical, could we potentially make it work? Sure. And maybe it's, if it's as easy as a Google Sheet and all you're doing is checking a box and changing, I'll make this to where this is like a drop down. So you'll click on this and, click no preference or Biden. Maybe an iPad might be okay. But yeah, if members could bring that. Now, that all being said, let's say worst case scenario, the Wi-Fi is really struggling, or something like that. I do have printed out paper backups as of the list yesterday night. So I think I have 3 copies of that. So if needed, we can switch to a paper copy, and then the paper copy will have 3 lists, and we'll split them up appropriately. And then I think we have 3 lists, so utilize 2, have 1 for backup purposes. Yeah, we can do data entry later on. It's just not going to be live. Yeah, so we'll have a backup just in case of that.
Thanks, Marco. Just
Yeah.
after the Harris County Convention, please make sure you take advantage of that backup idea because Wi-Fi was really bad. And, people didn't have the list or they didn't have access to it and it just bottlenecked everything.
All right, Sheena picked up something. Where is something misspelled? I'm sorry.
It's on the form, the very first form, the one that I think you said it's the number 1 form.
Oh, darn.
It's next to the checkbox.
Okay. Yeah. Chair Hatch, unless you have the ability to redo it, I think we'll just stick with that. I think Chair Hatch's team did that. Sorry, I'm throwing you under the bus, Mr. Chair. I didn't mean to do that, but yeah. Yeah, if we're able to get an update, I'll go ahead and just switch it out on the website. Thank you. Oh, Eddie, and then I want to tag in Chair Hatch to for something. Go ahead, Eddie.
Hey, Marco. So as far as registration, since we're going to have 6 tables, kind of knowing where to direct people, could you let us know, like, okay, this table is going to be the breakdown A to B, this table is going to be, D through whatever. Because I did ask Emma and Brenda, and they don't know what's going to be the alphabetical breakdown. Is that something?
So there's gonna be printed signage.
Okay.
So yeah, there will be printed signage. I think it's just, I think there's been like 3 different iterations that I've sent to Emma, and we just went with the last one. Because obviously the delegate list has moved a little bit, and whatnot. So yeah, there will be signage, so it'll be clear, just like it has been for the past couple conventions where we have done it by SD. It's very clear that this one says SD whatever. But this isn't something super new. We have done check-in in the past by alphabet. So it's just a return, and it's just dealing with 38th booths is more expensive and a little bit unwieldy, and also just there's not the space in that particular room to do all 38. Before we get to Azan and Karen, Chairman Hatch, are you able to speak? Okay, you might not be able to speak. Let's go ahead and go to Azan.
Yes, I have a question. So for these credentials meetings, I'm still kind of new to this. It's my first time. Do we just attend as many as we can, except for the required ones? I'm trying to get the gist of it.
Yeah, so y'all are one of the only committees that actually meet during the convention.
Right.
You're meeting throughout. The permanent committees are rules, resolutions, and platform. They all met before. So the idea is maybe for credentials to do as much as possible, but we know that there's conflicts, right? Like maybe during check-in, and that's why you don't want to you want to check the schedule. Chairman Hatch, I think, is going to help me build out I think it's something Genius, Sign Up Genius, to sign up the shifts. So
nice.
So you want to take as many shifts as you can, but also, go to the convention website and check out the schedule for Thursday through Saturday. And don't over commit. The nice thing is, I think this grouping of people that are helping to work on this stuff is probably about 60. So there are the permanent committee members. There are a couple of temporary officers appointed to fill some of the holes that we don't have representation for. But then also there's just assistants and staff assigned to the committee, assistant parliamentarians, parliamentarians. So there's about 60 of us to do this job. I'm not pulling from the general convention volunteer pool, kind of wanting to focus it on this type of people that I've mentioned. So sign up for as many shifts as you can. But of course you want to go to all your caucuses and do all those things. But the idea why this is different from last convention is we have a proxy process. So you do have, if you're able to, and this is something that you'll you can inform people and will be informed about this. I just want to get the instructions just right, because they technically can still be changed Thursday. But there's 3 types of proxies. The first 2 you really don't have to worry about. They're dealing with if no one from a county shows up, and they're also dealing with if a county, like this happens often with El Paso and Cameron County, everyone has to get on the charter bus and go home at noon or something. So everyone leaves. When that happens, you can assign a single person that county congressional district voting strength to proxy. So don't worry about those type of proxies. The ones that you have to worry about is the new one, which is it's for individuals who are checked in El Paso, right? You can't just be chilling back in Houston, Dallas, and trying to send a proxy. You have to be in El Paso doing work, aka the credentials committee. You're doing work for the convention. You're not able to participate in the process or you want to commit to doing your work on the credentials committee, but but there's a caucus that you really want to maybe there's some sort of business where they vote in. So for instance, I'm wearing my veterans hat, Veterans Caucus. I'm not gonna be able to go to it, but also I'm not missing any business because they're not doing any voting. However, Labor Caucus, I'm a union member. I want to be able to vote in that caucus, so I can send a proxy. That way I'm working in the credentials check-in area the whole time, doing stuff and working with y'all. So I think just take that into consideration, that there is a proxy process. It's still technically open for amendments, so it could slightly change, just FYI, at the SDC meeting Thursday. But yeah, there are proxies that should allow you to participate in votes of other types. For instance, if you're not running for anything in your CD, or you've already won because you're on credentials, right? Maybe you don't want to go to your CD caucus because you want to be busy helping out people, in the check-in area. So you could assign someone your proxy, and they go to your CD caucus and vote for you. Yeah, sorry if that was a long-winded answer, but that's sort of the idea of why there's proxies is for people to be able to do work somewhere else in the building. They're in El Paso, but you know, they want to assign a proxy to be able to participate and have representation for themselves.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Karen.
So I have two questions.
Yeah.
We didn't know any of this in CD 38. We have always set up our table. We had people that were already there, you know, set up to do the work at the table. So I can call them now and tell them they don't have to do that. But so we do have only one person going to be there on Thursday, and that is Sarah Said, and she was put in place of Rod Jennings, who is our chair. I know you know the story. So, I mean, she's the one that's going to be there on Thursday. And that's okay because she's not on the permanent committee.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, the idea is that the CD chairs for this convention, the way the space is, the fact that we went to the 31 to 38 is that there's literally not room for 38 booths.
Gotcha.
If those people are down to help it out with check-in, I'm happy to have more helpers. If this is the kind of stuff that they like, and we can make them assistants of the committee.
Do I give you a list?
Yeah, that'd be great. I just got a message. There's someone that's not able to get in, and let me make sure that I've approved everyone. I pre-approved most people. Oh, okay. All right. So if you're talking with someone that hasn't been able to get into the meeting, if you could let them know that I just approved that. I think there was 4 people. I pre-approved people on one email, but they probably signed up with another.
Okay, my second question is, do we have access to these forms in our caucuses?
Access to these forms. Can you
To
can you specify which form and
to the forms that you were pointing out?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So we will have an amount of these forms pre-printed at the credentials committee. I or the other appropriate people like the parliamentarians or someone that's trained up to do it can offer help for people on what they need to do with the form and advice on how to fill it out. And, also, suggestions if there's a better pathway to getting what they are what their goal is. So we'll advise people on how to fill out that form and what to do. We have a certain amount of print. We'll have an amount of printed copies. They need to come pick them up. However, this will also be online. In particular, and it's just because the rules say it. There is the that one petition where you need 1,000, maybe close to 2,000 signatures potentially. We're not obliged, the way the rules are written, to provide all of those. So we can provide, a couple, and then if they are going to go through that process, they need to go make copies on their own. The other ones, it's not a huge deal because they're the 1% petitions, right? And so that's 25, 35, 45 people. So they only need, I think the forms have 35 lines on there. So they only need 1 or 2 depending on the amount of people that are checked in. So they're gonna have to come pick them up with us, but also, I showed you that thing that would be made available, the committee reports and info page. That'll kind of be the hub for all the party business stuff. I can go and share that screen again. 1 second.
Yeah, I just missed. I just was not there when you were saying where you were going to share it.
Okay. Yeah. So this will be posted later today, and it will have online, and also people will receive notice of the consent calendars and all the petitions and all of that stuff.
Okay,
I'm not gonna post the proxy forms because one, they also have to be chopped and also a little bit of explanation. So those will be made available in the caucuses with the CD chairs as well as at the check-in table. So yeah, those I'm not pre-printing, or sorry, those I have pre-printed way more than enough that we'll need. And you know, if for some reason, you know, we got a copy machine. So yeah, those will be available in person.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Let me stop sharing. Let's see here. Things that I have not gone over. Y'all are also the record holder of the ballots. So during and let me go to screen share to sort of visually show you again. So there's the schedule. So you have the interest caucuses. I know it's 7:30 a.m., but you know, again, we're on Mountain Time, so it's really 8:30. And you know, this is just something that we had to start early because the convention centers, you know, a little bit more limited in the rooms than the others that we usually utilize, as well as we went from 31 to 38. So because we had to break up the congressional district caucuses into 3 groups, that made us push back and also kind of stack on top. There's a lot more competition in our interest caucuses. It also meant that we couldn't give a room. Usually, like there's about 40 interest caucuses. We only had room to have 24 have a space. So these caucuses will all meet. The ones that have pluses by them have an election. So you got environmental Dems, you got non-urban, you got labor, you got County Chairs Association, Stonewall, Hispanic, and Black. Sans the County Chairs Association, we're printing those paper ballots for them. And so they're going to have to come back and count. That's an easy count because it's 1-to-1, right? You're not doing the whole delegate strength thing because if you remember a caucus, it's 1 person, 1 vote. But then you have the congressional district caucuses that are all meeting. They're all going to they're not going to count inside their caucuses. Sans the I think 5 or let me see here. TXT /CD. All right. So anyone that's a show of hands, I should highlight this to make it a little bit. Oh, wait, I'm logged. I'll do that later. So if you're in CD5, there's, I think, 3 types of elections that, or maybe it's only 2 or 3, that they actually need to count while they're there at the meeting. And that's because they'll vote by show of hands. They have to count those hands, enter that into a spreadsheet, and then it's going to tell you your delegate's strength, right? Because if, you know, CD 5 county, Madison County or whatever, has, let's say they have 20 delegates allocated to them, plus their automatic delegates of 20, but only 5 people vote, that means those 5 people have 4 votes. So all that stuff, and then also there's counties that are completely missing. All of that stuff needs to get calculated. So unless there's a show of hands county that has for their 3 races, I think it's elector, nominations, DNC, and then the 2 SDC positions, those are going to be show of hands. They're going to have to vote during. So you have your first round, and then the top 2 vote getters are going to go to a runoff. So then you have to vote those if no one gets a majority the first time. Those are the people that have to count in the caucus. Now, for the rest of that ballot, for the Biden presidential preference portion, which is going to be like national delegates, and then the Biden presidential preference committee that becomes the nominations at large delegates committee. For those votes, those have to be paper ballot. So they can't count that in the caucus. So regardless, every single caucus is going to have to come back to the credentials check-in area to count. And, you know, just in case it gets a little bit crowded, we may have to queue and, you know, have a caucus wait before we finish. Some of y'all will get trained while we're there in helping people facilitate that counting. I think there's a couple of people, assistants that we got assigned that are non-committee members that are volunteering as tellers. But we could train some of y'all up to help them with that process. It's essentially counting it, putting it into a spreadsheet, and then figuring out, you know, going round by round by round. So it can be a lengthy process. That's something that y'all will have to help out with. Now, let's say they do the count and then someone wants to have a recount. It's the credentials committee's job, not necessarily the committee to like vote on everything, but like essentially y'all or, you know, someone assigned to the credentials committee as an assistant or in some sort of way to help facilitate that recount. Because I think there were a couple of recounts that happened last year, and I think we were just or last cycle, and we weren't as prepared as far as a process. So that's why this was built into the process. All right. Let me scroll through the comments a little bit. Someone is a state delegate in the wrong district. Okay, I'll make note of that. And Dina wanted to or one of our parliamentarians that had some correcting information. Elector is actually on the presidential ballot, so it's not on the general CD caucus ballot. The two ones that are in your CD caucus, essentially think about when you're going to your CD, you're actually going to two caucuses. You're going to your CD caucus, and then anyone who's Biden has their Biden presidential preference caucus. That's going to be elector, national delegate, and Biden presidential preference committee. Eddie, did you have a question? I thought you raised your hand first.
Oh, just
No?
really quick. I'm pretty sure this is going to be yes, that if you are going to be a candidate on the ballot, then you won't be allowed to be counting the ballots because of conflict of interest, right? Is that correct?
I'd like to call in our parliamentarian maybe to help answer that question if she's
Okay.
available. Or Dina Tollerton, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Go
No,
ahead.
we have times where the like especially with the SDC members where they are counting ballots. There's a team of people in there, and of course they're all available for review. So yes, there are going to be times where the people who are on the ballot in one of the races on the ballot are going to be counting them. But if for some reason when they're counting that particular race, if you wanted to say, hey, I'm not touching this, y'all count this without me and I'm just going to stand over here, that would be totally reasonable.
Okay. Thank you.
Since there's no hands up, I want to maybe shut up for a little bit. And Dina, I think you've been here the whole time. If there's any sort of advice or maybe some holes that you have to sort of go over stuff or anything. I know that you had that one correction. If I need to.
That was the only thing I had heard. I missed the first 10 minutes, but that was the only thing that I ran across. We definitely are going to need help with tellers because there are going to be some CDs that they don't know how to count the ranked choice votes. So the ones that are, if you're on a ballot and it's those two SDEC races and the nominations committee for DNC members, those are ranked choice votes. They're a little bit more challenging to count if they're not clear on the first round. So it's not hard, but it's actually easier with the physical paper ballots than it is electronically. But it's helpful if you already know what you're doing, and especially because we've got 3 rounds of these. It's going to be helpful because our folks will be able to have learned it on the first round and then they've got time to apply it. So if you're interested in helping with that, it would be really, really appreciated. That's the only thing I can think of right now, Marco. You did a great job.
Thanks. So I think some things outstanding are, we're going to send out, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's Sign Up Genius, is that right? The name of the thing that Chair Hatch is going to send out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's what he's saying.
So that's basically a shift sign up, and and we'll like make it to where we need more bodies. So essentially Friday is the big day for y'all. Saturday is a lot lighter because there's not verifying 25 signatures. Like that's quick. I mean, that's like maybe a job of like 1 or 2. But we do need 14 people to meet quorum to have those 2 meetings to approve of that work of those petition verifications. And so I just knowing everyone in the convention should get a text if we have your correct cell phone number. And of course, an announcement will be made in the convention hall that it's the 30-minute notice for nominations, DNC, and nominations at large. So when that happens, essentially, y'all have to know, those of you who are permanent committee members, and we need that 14 to meet quorum. Just know that, hey, 30 minutes, I need to be back in the Abraham Chavez. And so that's probably an appropriate time for you to fill out your proxy form. And same for like if you have to go to the restroom when you're on the convention floor, your CD chairs should have a proxy form. Assign it to someone. You go to the restroom, or you go and do your business with the credentials committee. Come back, take back your proxy, and now you're back to voting. So I think there was the Sign Up Genius. We'll send that out. The committee report stuff should be posted by sometime late tonight. Notice will go out as well in an email, and tell people about the petitions. If you guys can bring a working laptop, that would be great. If needed, or if Wi-Fi, sucks at any point, we can go to paper copies, and we'll just data enter those with a computer that we can get on Wi-Fi. So we'll figure out a process for that. So yeah, I think the idea is for this this committee to sort of help be the worker bees of the convention. I think that was sort of the intent in the rules change, and also I think credentials was very, very lightly utilized in the past. I think power cords available at registration. I think that the idea is for there to be power cords at registration. If not, that will be a problem. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that in our early conversations that there will be a power cords there. I'm sorry, I was just reading from the chat that's going directly to me, and y'all can't see if that's weird. Sorry about that. Does anyone want me to re-go over a part, or they missed something? Jonathan.
Can you recap the ballot counting portion? Like once the election has happened, then what? Are we going to another room to count the ballots, or is the ballot counting happening in the room that the election took place? Like that?
Yeah, there's not time. You want to get in a perfect scenario, you want to get done with your caucus in an hour, an hour 15. And get out of there, because there's another caucus that needs to go and fill that room, right? Unless you're the last one, right? So there's no counting in the caucus unless you happen to be a show of hands. So show of hands are CD2, CD5, CD30, CD34. So there's only 5.
And CD6.
Oh, wait, what was the other one? 6?
2, 5, 6, 30, and 34.
Yeah, I need to color this a little bit better so I can see it easily. So those will for SDC A, SDC B, and for nominations D and C. So for those 3 races, if there's not a majority in the first round of show of hands, and of course it's not a one person, one vote, you have to calculate all that in. So someone needs to, for those 3 caucuses, bring a laptop with a spreadsheet, enter it in real time so that it can do the math. If there's not a majority, then that needs to go to a second round, and it's the top 2 vote getters. Everyone else you're not going to announce the winners because all that stuff needs to get data entered back at the credentials check-in hub, the Abraham Chavez lobby. And then
so the Abraham Chavez,
sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
The Abraham Chavez lobby is the central location for all of our meetings.
Yeah, and you know what would be helpful? Let me go ahead and just, the things that I have shared, let me just go ahead and screen share. So, oops, that's not right. All right, so this will be the main convention business sheet. It's convention reports. So the important stuff is up at the top, which is going to be the platform / consent calendar, the rules report and consent calendar, resolution report and consent calendar, credentials report, which is right now only consists of the role. If there's any challenges or anything we need to annotate, we'll add some different tabs. And then let me show the map. So the general information, the very first thing is the map. So essentially we're dealing with 2 buildings. The Abraham Chavez Theater, of which we're only utilizing the lobby area, the interior. We're not using the actual theater itself. So it looks like this little wing-shaped thing. There's 2 makeshift rooms that are utilized lightly. There's not a whole lot of caucuses that are utilizing them. In fact, let me go and verify. So it looks like the second group of congressional district caucuses and the third group are using, oh, I guess all 3. I'm sorry. I apologize. I forgot. Things have altered over time. So just during the congressional district caucuses, these 2 rooms are utilized as caucus rooms. And, you know, obviously we targeted the caucuses that are going to be either a pretty small turnout or there's very few delegates who are signed up for those 6 CD caucuses. So this is, think of check-in as it means credentials. This is our hub. You know, this is where I'm going to live most of the time, unless I have to go over and help on the floor with stuff Saturday. So Saturday, it should be a very, very light day for y'all. But you do have those sort of triggered meetings because once there's that 30-minute warning, y'all have to come to the credentials committee, and we only need 14. Obviously, it's not a whole lot of real work that you're going to be doing this meeting because it's essentially there's been someone who's either a credentials committee member or an assistant who's done the petition verification, and y'all are just saying yes, or we've added people to the roll and now we have more state delegates. Yes, that's really all y'all are doing. The only complicated thing that might happen would be a challenge that is not clear. So, and that can happen from time to time. But, you know, Jonathan, you and I both know there was that challenge from Hidalgo County last cycle where there were some people that really wanted to be delegates, but there was no way to add them. And the convention chair from the county made it to where, you know, they didn't get added to the list. So that was like a big challenge. That's not a problem this time because the chairman or myself can just make someone temporary immediately. and they're in effect right then and there. And then y'all just need to say, okay, this person was added. Okay. So there should be very few challenges that should be controversial because everything's should be clear cut. So we'll be utilizing this public delegate list. So this is shown to the public. Go ahead and get out of filter view. You know, again, the main things are it's their last time to tell us presidential preference. You guys are gonna check them in El Paso and it'll give it a little date timestamp. And then, you know, if later on they have the ability to check out, which I don't foresee a whole lot of delegates utilizing, but they could, you know, meaning that I'm leaving the convention center, never coming back, they can check out. Delegate ID, I guess I'm not sure how much I went over this. I think we'll either have stickers or we're gonna have to write them on there, but I'm pretty sure Chair Hatch is gonna print some Avery stuff. And you know, it's only a 4-digit and it should be super teeny tiny. And we'll have a couple of duplicates. That way, you know, they can be spread across the tables. But again, you know, table A, I did this in alphabetical on purpose. Table A should have 1,000 through, table AB should have 1,000 through so many A's and B's. 1582. So I think we'll be able to utilize those stickers. If not, if for some reason that does not work, we'll have to handwrite them. So, you know, want to write them, you know, make sure that we have someone very good handwriting to write those numbers clear and maybe do something to clarify, you know, this is a 1, this is a 0, this is a 7, this is a 6, just so people don't get confused. Went over these forms. You know, this is the main motion form. All main motions are going to be in writing. So that should kind of limit, it kind of controls the chaos a little bit on the floor. Because it's clear what the heck is being asked. Because, you know, 9 times out of 10, someone will make a motion and it's not clear. You don't know exactly what it is. And if it's like dealing with a rule or resolution or platform, you need to know the exact language that you're going to put in, strike, amend, you know, all that stuff. So all of that, you know, needs to be done. Filing this alongside with, you know, a pull from consent petition is helpful. So that way you already have, you know, you have an idea of what the motion is going to be and people can know. Angela.
Just out of curiosity, okay, I understand that you're going to credential alphabetically. Are you going to give out the ballot for the voting during registration? Okay, so the SDC that are leading the caucus, they're going to be given a packet of information that includes the ballots to distribute?
Yeah, there'll be there will be an instruction form for all caucuses that have any type of voting that we're facilitating, which is literally every caucus, I think, except for County Chairs Association. So all the CD caucuses and then the caucuses that did not have their electronic votes, for instance, youth, AAPI, and Neuro all had their elections prior to, so electronically. So there will be an information packet, and so the CD chairs will receive that in a, you know, big manila folder with instructions, with tally sheets, with everything you need to conduct the election. And then, of course, you come back to the check-in area and do the count.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. So there's the 3 types of petitions. The pull from consent. This is a 1% petition. Petition to strike and replace. A name on a list. And also these need to be in order. For instance, like an example is, let's say Dina, let me try to pick on someone. Let's say Dina and Eddie, I think Eddie, you're in 37, right? Okay. So let's say Dina is a delegate from at large for 37. Actually, it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter your district. I don't know why I was thinking about congressional district. But let's say Dina is an at-large delegate, and the way that we're balanced for the entire delegation of national delegates, once this list is submitted, let's say it's there's 273, and let's say the extra person is a male. So, because it can be off by 1 essentially, and that's also not counting anyone non-binary, trans that is not identifying with one of the binaries, as well as someone who's asexual. They get kind of counted out. But let's just assume that there are going to be some, but let's just assume that there's not for hypothetical purposes. Eddie, has people that are supporting him, and they want to do a petition to strike and replace Dina, who's on the list, with Eddie. Like I said, in that scenario, you're already you're off by 1 male, but that's still okay. Now, if Eddie, let's say this petition is successful, it's turned in, but it's to strike Dina with Eddie. Dina identifies as female. Eddie, you identify as male, correct?
Right.
So if that's the case, then that is out of order because it would make the delegation imbalanced. So there could be and that can also happen with the DNC, especially with the DNC ones, and that can get complicated. But essentially, someone could put in a petition, put in a motion, and based on the way it's structured, it could be out of order. We'll try to help people out with that kind of stuff, but yeah, that's something to note. And of course, this is the biggie. This is the one where you need either 30% or I guess it's not 50%, but a majority, so past 50%. To enact it, either to bring it directly to the floor if it's 30% or more, or 30% to 50%, and then a majority, so over 50%, that just gets passed automatically and doesn't even come to the floor.
Hey, Marco, on that case there, should we direct people to look at the report in case they're thinking about a resolution where it's already passed on the report and they don't go running around chasing signatures when there's one already that's equal to what they would want?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like, it's only a 30-hour window.
Mhm.
I would highly discourage people from doing that because it's just because of the process. And also the fact that if it's, 30 to 50%, that also means that we have to deal with that on the floor in addition to all the other business. If that's the case, like, for instance, if it's like doing that for a platform doesn't make sense at all, right? Because what you could do instead is make a motion to pull from consent, which is only 1%, and then have an amendment to that subsection. So if someone's trying to do would you rather gather, 1,000 plus signatures, or would you rather gather 1% and do an amendment form to that particular section? So I think, we'll be there to help delegates try to get to their goal in a smarter way. And, hopefully, and of course, my philosophy is like, I want to try to reduce the amount of floor time that we'll have to spend on things. So, but, we're going to have discussion and there's going to be debate, and there's going to be votes on the floor, right? And people are going to pull something from consent. So that's kind of stuff that's still going to happen regardless. But yeah, I want to help people think through and do things smarter in a much more seamless way, if we can help it. Y'all have any other remaining questions? Anything seem confusing? Karen, sorry, did you say all of it?
I said all of it.
Yeah, and I mean, I get that all the time, like, oh my gosh, this is so confusing. And even with the things that have been like literally in the rules and no change for the last 40 years, like, I swear to God, people are confused between what a DNC member election is, representing a caucus or at large, from a national delegate. Like that's not a huge change. Like we've been doing this for, 50 years or plus. I mean, God knows how long. But it still confuses people, even the people who have been going to multiple conventions, because this stuff it's a big bureaucracy. It's a lot of rules. It's not things that you can get in the, a bite, in a bite size. You have to kind of break it up. And, I mean, you should see the discussions I have with, our parliamentarians and staff, on the daily and our chairs, because things can get super confusing even for us. And we have to go back and look at this stuff. So, yeah, don't be afraid of, I'm new to this and I don't know, or I'm confused. We'll work it out. It's just the nature of the beast. I remember, my first convention, that experience is, a million times, different than the ones that I have now, right? And so, it's a learning process. Things change. And also you forget about how you were supposed to do something, so you have to go back and look.
Well, that's normal, but for I guess our CD is just in chaos right now. So that's pretty much our problem, and nobody knows what anyone's doing. So
it's fine. It'll work itself out.
It will. I'm sure it will.
And that's part of the credentials committee's, I think, job is to sort of help facilitate, those that are a little bit confused. And so y'all will become the experts by the end of it. And then, the rules will slightly change for the next convention and the next presidential. But now you know where to look and like, where all the things are and, how to look for the notice and all that stuff. Let me see if, someone has to leave for El Paso soon and needs to pack. Yeah, if you need to log off, you're good. When will the results of the CD elections be available? I mean, that just depends. We're going to have to count them at some point on Friday and potentially assist in the counting. That needs to, go on the sheet, and that needs to be posted on the website. So that will be available on that. Because I didn't really scroll down a lot. Let me show you. So this first section is just the general session info and permanent and nominations committees. So this is all the consent calendar. This is the petitions. It's the reports. The next section is the general information link or links. So, the map, schedule. I need to add the pre-schedule, the party events, the partner events, delegate list, rules, different types of rules. There'll be an SDC meeting agenda. We'll also just put the winner's link. And, at the end of it all, someone will type up the convention notes. And so that'll be posted publicly, essentially the unofficial minutes. And then you have the interest caucus winners. So that'll be all posted there. There's 9 caucuses that are having elections. So that'll be posted there. And then here's where, there'll be a single link where it shows the winners of all the races. And then there'll be a tally sheet for all the 38 CDs. And then also I'll have down here all the information from the temporary committees and then the stuff that occurred at the on March 23rd at the county conventions. So yeah, all that stuff will be posted there. Stop sharing. Can you backtrack and show how to get to reports? So I'll put the link in the chat. It's not live yet. Well, no, I don't want to do that because it's pointing to somewhere else right now. But the txm.co/convention-reports, it's not live yet, but once it's live later on tonight, that's where the thing that I just show you will be. Someone asked about delegate ID. Let me share screen again. All right, so everyone's just it's alphabetical except for anyone, for instance, I think since we added delegate ID, I think there's only been 2 ads. So the way the numbering system works is it's alphabetical 1000 through 5701, and any new ads are going to get a 6000 series. So I've already assigned someone a 6000 and a 6001. So if we add a new delegate, that person will get the delegate ID number of a 6002, 6003, and so forth. I wish I asked someone to send me the credentials. Sorry, I've muted all of my chats while we're in here. So I don't know if let me see if someone sent it to me. No, yeah. I mean, you guys will see them soon enough. It's the delegate badge. There's a place for, county, CD, name, the little, I think Chairman Hatch is going to be able to print them. But there's going to be a tiny, like thumbnail sticker that'll have this delegate number. And it just helps for facilitating petitions and other things if we have the delegate ID number. So essentially you're going to put that little sticker, and if for some reason we're not able to get the stickers right in very small on the badge, that number before you hand it to them. So essentially when you're giving the delegate badge, there's going to be a couple things that you're going to need to say. So, probably something about, proxies, although I want to guarantee what you're going to say about that once we have our meeting, SEC meeting on Thursday. And then you're going to give them I think we have bags. We have Canvas bags for everybody. So you're going to give them a program. You're going to give them a Canvas bag. You're going to, ask presidential preference. You're going to make sure you check them in by checking the box and ensuring that they fill out their delegate badge appropriately, or if they need help, if you fill it out for them. So, that's signature, CD, county, and just make sure that is filled out correctly before they leave. All right. I don't think there was any more questions in the chat. Any last calls? All right. Well, Mr. Chair.
Well, I think if we've covered everything, and it sounds like we have, thanks everybody for all the great questions. Marco, you cannot get sick, so you take a lot of vitamin C and anything else you got to do, B12 shots. We can't have you getting sick in the next, 72 hours.
Oh, I am not sick. I've had this cough for like 6 months at this point. I think it's a stress cough slash, also it's very dry in El Paso, which if I could, let me tell you a little bit of a personal story. So I live in Austin. It's humid. It's not as bad as Houston. But it's humid in Austin. My parents met in El Paso outside of UTEP. I was born and raised in El Paso, and my mom really liked my dad's thighs. So I have big calves. There you go. And that's what I want to say, calves. So he proposed very quickly. But let's see here. Sorry about that. But my mom got accepted to a master's program at UT Austin. She never experienced humidity. She went in July, did not, her hair, she'd take a shower and, her hair sticking to her. She'd never experienced it before. So thank God for the humidity in Austin, or else I would not exist. Because, she came back and, did her master's or the different masters that she did either at UTEP or at NMSU, which is the one of the sister cities in El Paso and Las Cruces. So El Paso is dry. So you may need a little bit of like, some saline or something like that. But yeah, it's a little bit drier. But yeah, I also have bad allergies. I promise you I'm not sick, but hopefully after convention, I'll get enough sleep and finally be able to get rid of this hacking cough. So I'm good, Chair.
All right, well, with that, I think we've had all the questions answered. We'll get out the sign up genius to everybody to please sign up. Marco's done a great job of telling us when all we really need to be there for the meetings that we need to be in case we have to have a quorum. Marco, so thank you, everybody. I think it's going to go fairly smoothly if everybody, with all the prep work that's been done ahead of time. So if you would, just pay attention. And I leave here, I fly out tomorrow at about 3 o'clock. So I'll be out there tomorrow evening, and we'll be getting ready for the convention. With that, does anybody have any other questions or comments? We will adjourn.
Safe travels, everyone.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Travels indeed.
Stay
Without
safe, you all.
objection.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Marco,
Marco.
10 o'clock, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks.